Board of Directors. Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll? Oh, I'm sorry. First, we will open with the public hearing for the Council Bluffs Schools Board of Directors. Public hearing on the concrete joint work for College View, Carter Lake, and IT areas. Let the record show that all board members are present. The Council Bluffs Community School District is holding a public hearing on the concrete joint work for College View, Carter Lake, and IT areas. After the presentation of information, the board will take questions, and then there will be opportunity for members of the public to address the board as well.
Thank you, Mr. LaFerla. I think, Mr. Wilson, are you going to introduce our guests? And then also, Mr. LaFerla, I think we have one more. Did you see that also?
Do we want to
Okay,
do both
perfect.
at the same time?
Yeah, that'd be great. They're ready to
Okay.
also do Wilson.
Okay. So we'll also be holding a public hearing on the parking lot replacement at Woodrow Wilson Middle School. Dr. Mello, would you like to get us started?
Yes, thank you so much. Mr. Wilson, are you starting with Wilson, or are you starting with the other two? Okay, so Mr. Wilson, you will introduce Jared. He's going to do the presentation.
Yeah, Mr. Olson. So Jared Olson is here from HGM, and he will talk about the work that requires.
Good evening.
Every time of year where Jared shows up to talk about concrete, it's been about a year and you're, so, I actually had the wrong cover sheet on that one, so the first one we are going to be talking about is joint. For those that have been around for the last several years, one of the issues that we run into at concrete projects with big parking lots is we start to have issues with
Yeah, Jared, can I stop you for a minute? Your mic isn't plugged in, which means those watching online would not be able to hear you. So someone needs to.
I was trying to be discreet. There you
Okay,
go.
Not a problem.
Yeah,
great.
speak right into it.
Yep.
There we go. Thank you.
All right. So we're here to talk about the joint repair projects on the concrete lots. For those that were here for the multiple phased projects out at Abraham Lincoln High School, that was the result of a parking lot that didn't get caught in time, and then the actual structure ended up failing of the actual paving. So we had to replace it all. What we're going to be doing now is, over the last few years, we've put some effort into identifying the lots that need attention right away. That way we can get in front of it so we can do repairs instead of replacement. So the two major parking lots that we're going to be tackling are the Carter Lake and College View parking lots that will be having partial
So, would this be a result of not having the joints treated like we've been doing in the last projects? These would be examples of
That's
why
an
we,
example, yeah.
why we want to treat it, the concrete.
Now, there could be other issues,
Okay.
perhaps, you know.
Sub-slab
Yep, yep,
issues.
there could have been other issues.
Drainage.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. And one of the items that we're going to be really addressing here with both of these sites is the way we're setting the project up at both Carter Lake, College View, and at the IT parking lots, is we're going to be setting it up so that we can go ahead and expand or retract the project as needed once we get into it. So we'll have unit prices to get in there. So as we remove the poor concrete, we don't think we have a poor subbase issue. There's not a whole lot of indication of that, but sometimes you find that. So we'll have the bid items in place and the established competitive bid items so that we can get in there and make some of those changes. But really, this is, pavement is oftentimes thought about, you put it down and you come back in 30, 40 years and replace it. However, if you can get in there, if you can stay in front of it, you can actually extend that life for quite a long time. That's what we're trying to get more of a district-wide program on. These ones are the first three sites that we're going to be tackling. We will be addressing it through a few different approaches. Carter Lake primarily will be using partial depth patches where we don't have to go all the way down to the bottom. There seems to be a lot of salt damage at that site. As anyone who's familiar with Carter Lake, they do have some runoff, slow runoff issues, which does result in the salt sitting on the concrete a little bit longer. So that would be indicative of that. We're gonna tackle that with partial depth patches, and then we do have to replace, on the bottom right corner of the picture there, you can see the blue color there. That apron, when it was installed, the city roadway doesn't have very good drainage, so it does hold water there about half the time. Pretty much if there's any runoff, there is standing water there. I will say that this is probably an area that will be an ongoing thing that you need to come back every so many years and just simply replace the concrete. With the amount of traffic and heavy loads that come through there, it just won't hold up as well as you would like a normal pavement base to do. There's really not a better way to do it because you can't get the water out of there. And water really does destroy pavement. At College View, the shaded areas are where we're going to be targeting most of it. The red area again is from the bus traffic. As you can imagine, the heavier loads reduce the life of the concrete faster than other areas. This will be a little bit more full depth patches based on what we're estimating, and we'll see how the winter actually treats it. We're about halfway through and it's not too bad yet. And then finally at the IT building, that parking lot is quite a bit older. It has had a lot of patches and overlays and et cetera done to it, but we are going to address it while we have a contractor under contract. These projects tend to work a little bit better when you have multiple sites. You get a little bit of the economy of scale. And with the new pavement joints, we will be putting down the sealant. We're not going to go seal the older joints. As I mentioned before, a lot of your calcium damage comes in those first 2 winters. So a lot of that pavement has already kind of probably taken a lot of the damage it already could. In my opinion, I think we're going to be better off investing on replacing more joints with our budget than sealing the joints that are already out there. Ultimately, several years down the road, maybe we come up with a program where we're routinely sealing the joints and reapplying the sealants on some kind of a basis, but right now we need to get the structural repairs done first. So these numbers here are what we're estimating each one of the sites will require. As I said, we have the contract set up so that when we get out there, we can go paint a little bit further, we can do a little bit less as we get into it. These are the approximate budgets that we have set up for the work though. Between the 3, a little under $200,000 is the estimate. I do believe there was a little over 200, maybe 225 was in the budget, so if we need to expand as we get into it, we'll have a little bit of opportunity to talk about that. One thing I will say about that is we also are setting the contract up for the 2 fiscal years. So we anticipate about half of the work being done before July 1st and the other half of the work being done after July 1st. The project will be going out to bid later this week with the board's approval. We'll be coming back next month for award and start in May and complete in August. Are there any questions on that?
Any questions from board members?
Yeah. So for the IT building, was that touched at all during the stadium renovation project? Because I know it just goes into that area. Do we know if any of that
Yeah,
had been
so
touched on?
let's see here. The IT building is the old
Tucker Center slash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So the IT building is actually the one over on 16th Street. They've
Oh,
kinda
okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's fine.
I have it in my different thing in my head.
Yeah.
To answer your question about Tucker,
Oh,
though,
no.
we
Oh,
did not get
God.
behind Tucker when we were there for the stadium.
Okay. Cool. Good to know.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I just had the wrong building in my head.
Nope. They moved the signs.
And then for the city of Carter Lake, do we have any indication on like what the city's plans are for just some of those road improvements? I know they're like, I mean, that's a whole historical thing with City of Council Bluffs and just lack of investment in that part of the city. But
As
do we
far
have-
as the roadway drainage?
yeah, any of that?
Yeah,
like-
so when we put those driveways in originally, we did meet with the city. Pretty much anything we did to elevate our site to keep our water off would have pushed our water onto a neighbor, which is not a very neighborly thing to do. So what we decided to do back in, that's been about over 10 years, I'm thinking, we decided to concentrate the standing water into as small of an area as possible so that the school district's issue was minimized and contained. The next closest storm sewer we could get to is about half a block away, and it has essentially zero slope. Short of completely rebuilding the roadway, which we'd be trapping water in other yards. Okay, that's a long way of saying there's really not an easy solution,
No,
and I'm
okay.
not aware of a plan to deal with it on the right of way.
Okay, gotcha. And then just what is the age of the different concrete slot, like for the Carter Lake and College View? I know both of those are
Around 10 years.
New-ish buildings?
I think
but-
they're around
okay.
10 years. The IT paving is quite a bit older. I couldn't tell you. I would guess it's probably 30-ish. It's been rehabbed a lot over the years.
So what could we expect in terms of joint improvements like this on all parking lots that were not pre-treated like what we did at AL?
Yeah.
Is
So
that an every 10-year kind of thing, or?
if you are coming back every 5 to 10 years to tackle the small problems, we haven't really done that. Both of these sites, maybe 5 years ago, could have had a lot smaller of an approach. However, we were doing full replacements elsewhere. When we're all into it, I think coming back every 5 years or so to reseal joints, to replace the few that have deteriorated would be a good routine maintenance program.
Does, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, so Jared, in the facility master plan, then is that noted every 5 years?
Yeah, we've talked about
Did
kind of
you?
the recurring
Okay.
pattern, and, yep.
Very similar to what I was gonna ask is, are any of these three up in the master plan for a full remodel, or is the master plan state the joint work?
Joint work.
Okay.
Yep. We are tackling the largest ticket items from the master plan.
Would the topography of the Carter Lake site be conducive to retention structures, or is the ground already so low that a subsurface retaining structure wouldn't be practical, or to deal with the water standing on the site?
Yes, the water table in Carter Lake often is only a couple feet down.
Right,
So going below ground is
hard.
minimally productive, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
I will move on to the other public hearing. The Wilson parking lot, as you all are aware, the remodel has been ongoing. This parking lot has been an identified problem for the district since the stadium project was going on. And with the idea that the Wilson Middle School would be getting remodeled at some point, it was decided to let it go and we would catch it during the construction. Similar to Kern, it's caught a lot of construction traffic, which has shortened the life a little bit more, which was to be expected. We are just talking about the south half, or the south parking lot. We aren't really addressing the drop-off loop up to the west. Part of what we are going to be tackling, though, is reconfiguring it a little bit, so that's a little bit more user-friendly with the change in the traffic out there. We will also be addressing some of the ongoing water issues that are out there. If you have been on the board for a little while or been in the community, there have been some ongoing flooding concerns at Wilson parking lots. I recall there being a prom about a decade ago or so where some people got some dresses wet. I remember hearing about that one. But generally speaking, with where this site sits in the city of Council Bluffs, when the city storm sewers get at capacity, this parking lot has nowhere to push its water to. The streets are as backed up as the parking lots are, which then results in water standing in the middle of the lot, which is catching traffic from buses, etc. So one of the items that we're going to address is we're going to increase our stormwater conveyance capacity. We're going to oversize the pipes to allow for a little underground storage, similar to like we did at TJ many years ago. But we're also going to have to accept the reality that we're still going to occasionally have standing water in the parking lot. If it stands water in the street, it's going to stand water in the parking lot at the same time. So what we're going to attempt to do is to actually force the water to stand in the areas that have the least amount of parking. This will be the new layout here. We will be having some additional drop-off lanes. It currently has 142 parking spots. We were actually managed to squeeze a few more spots out of that. We are getting rid of some of the islands that are kind of a plowing nightmare, which ultimately ended up just trapping water and causing ice problems anyways. And then the traffic flow should move a little bit better through here. We are then also putting in increased storm sewer capacity. We're reconnecting at an alternate overflow location, just so that when the system does back up and the off chance that the city sewer is plugged up with debris, for instance, we'll have a secondary overflow spot. However, we do anticipate water standing on the site. If you're looking at this picture here, I would imagine, if you think about it as an L, we're gonna be at the bottom half of the leg of the L. That area there could get up to 6 to 8 inches of water if the street has about 4 or 5 inches of water, which is not an entirely uncommon occurrence. I bet you it happens once every other year. I've been down there enough with my truck to know it. Taking pictures or whatnot of the situation, it does happen fairly frequently down there. The other area that will hold water is the angled parking along the long section on the south side of the longer section there. That water will only get to be about 2 or 3 inches deep. That amount of water actually should be able to handle a fairly sizable storm with the storm sewer overflowing in a spread out area where it shouldn't be coming, you know, ankle deep, that kind of a thing. Not ideal, but considering what currently happens out there where it's up to the floorboards of pickups, it should be a lot better. We will be sealing the joints as we have been with all the new concrete as well. Talked about that in the past. And the construction estimate is sitting a little under 800,000. 783 is our estimate. And then one caveat on that is depending on when we do the removals of the parking lot and the removals of these sidewalks, when we're tying into existing paving, we want to tie into good concrete. Occasionally, as what happened at AL, when you go removing, you start finding other problems. So I would, you know, we might have to extend the perimeter just a little bit to catch solid concrete. We will be tying into the city roadways on the west, and that actually the little gray area there that comes up the center is actually a city roadway. It's in really poor shape. That is city street, so we will be tying into it. I hope that we'll be able to work something out with this city to kind of get a good coordination spot right there, as there's really nothing to tie cleanly into. So we'll work with them on a transition likely during construction. This schedule is the same as the joint repair project. Plan to come back next month with bids, the request for award, with work to start in April. We're hoping to get done in July if the spring cooperates. We have been in coordination with the building remodel contractor as well, so they're aware of this schedule. Any questions?
So the small roadway, where we had had some real issues with it, is that right where those met? We had some of that weedy.
Yeah, yep, that's part of it. So the way we've shaped this a little bit, we're not relying on that roadway to take our water as much anymore.
But I guess just, I mean, if you've driven by, I mean, where, like, what have we worked out so far with the construction? Will a lot of the stuff that's currently in that lot just not be there anymore with the building being mostly completed by that point in time? Or
As far
what
as
is-
lot storage and et
Yeah,
cetera?
just any
Yeah,
of that.
so,
Okay.
so Londros, I believe that's who it is out there, is aware of the schedule. They'll be relocating to another spot. That's this schedule kind of they're aware of. And I mean, every contractor wants as much room as you'll give them, but they're aware of it. They'll be relocating most of their material out of there before we need to move in, yes.
So then the dark line at the bottom that goes up north and then to the west, is that the?
Secondary storm
That's
storage,
the secondary storm that'll tie into
Yep.
21st Street?
Yes, and that's an oversized pipe, so it likely will not be able to discharge very quick. So it'll just be a secondary storage option. Those flash floods, hopefully we can reduce.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jared.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And that concludes our report. Thank you, Mr. LaForla.
At this time, we have time for public comment on the projects presented. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the board? Seeing no movement, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. And now I will call to order the workshop meeting of the Council Bluffs School District Board of Education. Mr. Wilson, will you call the roll?
Dr. Ogres?
Present.
Mr. Minchall?
Present.
Here.
Present.
Mr. Arthur? Here. Ms. Sheena?
Here.
Mr. LaFleur?
Here. At this moment, I would ask everyone to stand and observe a moment of silence with me, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move approval of our agenda as presented.
Second?
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion to approve our agenda carries. Next, we have approval of the minutes of our work session and workshop business meetings of December 8th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I can move to approve the minutes from the work session and the workshop business meeting of December 8th, 2020 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion to approve the minutes carries. Next, we have a public participation portion of our agenda. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board regarding matters on the agenda or anything else of concern. If there is anyone from the public who wishes to address the board, please go ahead and move to the podium. Seeing no movement, we will move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Murillo.
Thank you, Mr. LaForlette. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Vorthman to the podium. He will be presenting on our +1 pathways. I'm really excited about this update. You know, this is one of the areas that we have focused on and is something that we believe is a tremendous benefit and opportunity for our students. So very excited for you to see the update and hear about the research that Dr. Vorthman's been following. So Dr. Vorthman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Murillo. It's my pleasure tonight to provide the board with an update on the work that we've been doing toward one of our important goals around D+1. And I'll start off tonight by kind of framing the why behind why we're doing this work and how we're tracking progress on it, and then give you a little bit of rationale for why this work is so important for our students, and then finish up tonight with kind of an update on where we're at in terms of actual student participation. So as you recall, of the 4 strategic goals that we have as a school district, number 2 specifically alludes to how we're making sure that students are future ready. And we have 2 targets that we're looking toward achieving. The first one is with regard to our early college academy, ensuring that we have at least 60 students that are able to earn that associate's degree and or second career credential through ECA by 2021. And the second target is making sure that at least 50% of our graduating senior class this year has earned their high school diploma and second credential simultaneously. But I want to put this in a little bit of context tonight because we have worked really hard to make sure that we have multiple pathways for students. And as you recall, we've created these +1 pathways, as we refer to them, as kind of the roadmap that helps students earn their D+1 while they're in high school. And so tonight I'm going to explain a little bit more about how our students are doing in our TRADEWORKS Academy. Those are at Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson High Schools and the Dr. Rossick TRADEWORKS facilities. The TRADEWORKS Academy at Iowa Western, which is the year 3 and 4 extension of that program. Our college credit acceleration program, which is in both of our high schools at AL and TJ, which allows our students to earn basically their first year of college while they're still in high school. Early College Academy at Iowa Western's campus, and our certificate advancement program that houses culinary arts and health science at Iowa Western. The reason these things are so important is because there is a lot of research right now that suggests that perhaps what we have often encouraged over the past 30 years may have not achieved the outcomes that we were hoping. And what I'm referring to is kind of the university for all mentality that really became popular in the late 80s, early 90s. And I'm sure you've all seen the charts that show the lifetime earning potential of people based on their degree attainment. And while there certainly is some credibility to that, it leaves behind the fact that in many situations, those averages just don't tell the whole story. So what I want to share with you tonight is some of the rest of the story behind what we're beginning to understand in both in our economy and in education regarding post-secondary preparation for students in high school. The first thing I want to kind of preface this tonight with is, unfortunately, when our students leave us and attend either college or university, one of the biggest complaints that students have is the disconnect that they see between their career aspirations, or where they want to be in the workplace, and the coursework that helped them get there. And most recently, a study was conducted where 62% of all university students felt that there was a disconnect between what they actually wanted to do and what they were learning about doing in school. And that really kind of stuck with me because it's really one of the main outcomes of our +1 pathways, is to give students more opportunities to see themselves in a career role sooner, so that it provides a roadmap to help them achieve that at an earlier stage in life. In addition, it's even more depressing when we look at the students who actually attend a college or university. And of those students who enroll for the first time, only a quarter of them will actually graduate with a bachelor's degree. That is a really, really alarming statistic. Not only do we work really hard to make sure that students have the opportunity to get there, but the persistence rate that students continue to enroll in school and then actually finish a degree within 6 years, unfortunately, has gotten lower and lower every year. And there are many reasons for that. One of them is what researchers are now referring to as gray collar jobs, or students who graduate from a college or university with a bachelor's degree in a field, but end up being underemployed. So they're taking a job that does not require the amount of training or expertise that the bachelor's degree would require. And unfortunately, in our economy right now, this is over 50% of all university graduates are employed in a career field which does not require them to have a bachelor's degree. Why is that such an alarming statistic? It's because it's not free. Currently in our country right now, there is over $1.5 trillion, T with a trillion with a T, in outstanding student loan debt. Every time I say that, I have to pause because it's hard for me to get my head around what $1 trillion is. But $1 trillion is 1,000 billion, and a billion is 1,000 million. So try to think about how much that actually is. It's an astonishing number that I think is hard for any of us to get our heads around. But when we have these statistics that show us that not only are students increasingly saddled with student loan debt, but they're not able to have the earning power and potential to pay off that student loan debt because they're going into career fields that they're overqualified for. And why are they going into career fields they're overqualified for? Because there's a disconnect between the coursework that they're taking and how they see themselves in school. What's worse is that over 50% of all people in the United States have some type of student loan debt. And the average borrower in our country has over $37,000 in student loans. And those student loans aren't free. They require you not only to pay back the principal, but you pay them back with interest because you're borrowing someone else's money. So the hole keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper for our students. That's why we have come to the conclusion in our school district that we don't need to make kids wait. D+1 is a reality for our kids now. So as we look forward, we need to ask ourselves, are we preparing students for the jobs that were available in 1960 and the world of work and education in 1960? Are we preparing them for what is to come? So if you look generally about 50 to 60 years ago, this is kind of the general breakdown of what our country required in order to have a fully functioning workforce. So if you look at this, what you can see is about 60% of students who graduated from high school in 1960 could earn a good living by entering the workforce. A high school diploma was enough to get them kind of that steady, stable, paying job. And only about 20% required some additional technical skills, and another 20% some advanced or professional training. What's interesting is this mentality shifted quite a bit to, in the 1980s, saying that everybody should be going to college. Unfortunately, what we know about the workforce that our students will be inheriting in 2030, it looks very different. In fact, if we look at where we believe the workforce requirements will be in 2030, and this is based on a study out of Georgetown University, you can see that nearly 2/3 of all jobs will require either a high school diploma and a career credential or an associate's degree. That's why we're doing D+1 now, because our kids can benefit from this and the necessary training while they're still in high school. Only 33%, 1/3 of the jobs that are going to be necessary in our workforce will require that bachelor's degree plus. Now, I'm not saying we don't need kids to go to college. We do. But I am saying perhaps we need to start thinking about career planning a little bit differently and not assuming that a student can't earn a high quality of life if they don't have the bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a post-baccalaureate credential. The most recent study that we have come across was done at Harvard University, which looked at this 2030 projection and really looked at our economy and our workforce and identified that in terms of training, what our workforce and economy really require is a ratio of educated workers of 1 to 2 to 7. 1 to 2 to 7. I want you to put that in the back of your mind because it's going to come up. You're going to think about it and have some aha moments, I think, over the next week, as I did. 1 to 2 to 7 refers to the ratio of workers that are necessary in our economy to continue to operate where we're currently at. We need at least one worker who has a master's degree plus in our economy right now. And for every one worker, we need 2 that have a bachelor's degree. So 1 to 2 to 7 workers that have an associate's degree or a career credential or a post-secondary diploma. That is in direct contrast to what we have told students previously. Because absolutely we have to have people who are in professional jobs, we have to have people who get the bachelor's degree, but the overwhelming majority of our jobs are going to come from people who are D+1 graduates, who are students who've earned a high school diploma and gone on to the military and earned a credential, who have gone on to the community college, who've gone on to some type of apprenticeship program and become a journeyman. All of those are what is going to make our economy run in 2030 and beyond. So that's why D+1 is critical for student success. That's why we are so passionate about the work we're doing to make sure that students have multiple pathways to this second credential. And so what I want to provide for you tonight is an update on how our students are doing in this program. So first of all is our College Credit Acceleration Program, because in our school district, we absolutely want to prepare kids who want to be that 1 or that 2. Those students who are going to go on to university and get their bachelor's degree or want to become a doctor or a lawyer, an attorney or an engineer or whatever it may be. If that's their passion, we want to support them. And that's what the College Credit Advancement Program does, is it gives students that early leg up to earn that year 13. And they can do that in our own high schools with our own high quality teachers who are offering advanced placement and concurrent classes at Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson. We also created this year a STEM concentration because we offer a really high quality science, technology, engineering, and mathematics program right in our own high school. In fact, a student can earn almost 70 college credit hours in STEM in our high schools through a combination of computer science or upper level mathematics, engineering, or computer science classes. We're also really excited with the changes at Iowa Western and their computer science program. We've sat down with them and remapped what might be possible for our students. And so when students come back in the fall, they will have a new option in AL and TJ to study computer science and earn a certificate or diploma program from Iowa Western in web design, programming, network, or cybersecurity. This is really exciting because these are the high-paying jobs that I'm talking about in that 7. We need those types of jobs. In fact, a recent study that I came across showed just the true impact of gray-collar workers right now, especially in IT. Students who are coming out of 4-year schools with computer science degrees are often starting at the same level as students who are coming out of community college with a specific certificate. And that's primarily because the rate of change is happening so fast in the skills that employers are looking for and different coding languages and applications that it's hard to keep up. And so they've really leveled the playing field between the two. Our second program I want to talk about tonight is our TRADEWORKS Academy. This is the second year of that program. We currently have 248 students that are enrolled in our TRADEWORKS 1. That's a lot of kiddos at Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson. And of those, when we look back at last year, over 100 students enrolled this year in TRADEWORKS 2. So that's a 45% retention rate from year 1 to year 2. Even though we had some challenges with COVID and trying to figure out how to offer a CTE program that's hands-on in a virtual environment, we know that we lost a few students to that, but still pretty strong numbers. In fact, we had a 36% matriculation rate of students who were in TRADEWORKS 2 who then went into TRADEWORKS at Iowa Western this year. And so that's a pretty strong first year opportunity for students who weren't really sure what TRADEWORKS was going to be all about and liked it enough to go into the TRADEWORKS at Iowa Western program. Later on this evening, we'll be asking the board to consider an updated agreement with Associated Builders and Contractors to provide an after-hours training opportunity for not only our students but our community. And ABC will be working at Thomas Jefferson High School with our instructor to provide an 8-week after-hours training that allows either students who've dropped out or dropped by school, community members who want to sharpen their skills, or even people who are currently in the labor force and need it to help them in their current career field will be able to earn their certificate in construction trades with NCCER in our facility. And that'll happen from 5 to 8 p.m. for 8 weeks. And so we think that's another value add that we can provide not only our students but our community through the TRADEWORKS program. Like I said, the TRADEWORKS at Iowa Western, we saw a 36% matriculation rate from high school into post-secondary. That included 44 students who were enrolled in 5 different programs. Among those programs, welding and automotive technology were the most frequented programs this year. What's interesting about that is just how well prepared our students are. Our instructors at Iowa Western often brag about our students that are learning next to adults or 20-year-olds or people who come back from the community to take continuing ed classes. In fact, in our first semester, we had an 89% success rate of students who were in TRADEWORKS at Iowa Western. And so we were very proud of the work that they've done. We have a great counselor at Iowa Western, which she makes sure, Kathy Schmedding is her name, she makes sure that all of our students at Iowa Western are taken care of. She helps them when they get off track. She makes sure that they know what doors to knock on and what questions to ask. And she does that not only for our TRADEWORKS kids, but also for our early college academy kids, and helps to make sure that they're on their career goal. And we're excited that this we believe will grow even more next year based on some early indications of course requests. The other program that's at Iowa Western is our certificate advancement program. And those are Council Bluffs instructors who are on Iowa Western's campus. We offer coursework in health science and culinary arts on the campus. We currently have 76 students who are in health science, 32 who are enrolled in CNA. That program is maxed out. It's capped because of instructor ratio. In order for us to grow that program, we would have to hire another instructor, which we don't really have at this time, we don't really have the finances to do. That is a very expensive program, and we're lucky to be able to use the facilities at Iowa Western to be able to allow those students to do that work. Next year, we will be starting a new early childhood education pathway at Iowa Western Community College as part of this program. This will allow students who want to earn their child development certificate to do so while they're still in high school. And that would qualify them to be an early childhood teacher's aide or articulate into an associate's degree in early childhood and go on and be a teacher or early childhood teacher if they wanted to. So that's an exciting development that we've been working on as well. Our final program I wanted to mention tonight is our Early College Academy. That program is continuing to see unprecedented success. We have currently 51 students who are juniors and seniors who are taking part in that program at Iowa Western. They just finished earning shy of 700 college credit hours at no cost to them or their parents. Almost half of them earned a perfect 4.0 GPA at Iowa Western last semester. We know that all 26 of our seniors are on track to graduate, and they've currently been accepted over 40 colleges and universities across the nation. Those students have earned, on average, over $100,000 in scholarships each, $2.7 million just of those 26 seniors. And we're currently accepting applications for the class of 2023 cohort, which will start in the fall of 2021. And before we wrap up tonight, I also want to give a nod to the work that we've been doing on work-based learning, because we know that this disconnect that students are feeling once they get into post-secondary is something that we need to address before they get to that point. And so work-based learning is becoming an increasingly important part of a student's overall comprehensive post-secondary career plan. And so this year in the program of studies, we included a work-based learning guide for students that shows them the stair steps that they can take all the way from that very first career exposure and the 5th grade career fair, all the way through to the most comprehensive job learning of an apprenticeship program. And in order to provide all of those opportunities for students, Paul Hans, who's our coordinator of career and technical education, has done a tremendous job beating down doors and opening doors for our students, not only with local businesses, but with state and federal agencies. And I am so proud of the work that he has done. This year, we will be able to start in the spring of 2021. This is new. We think we have everything in place to actually start semester 2, our first CNA apprenticeship program, which allows students to earn that on-the-job training credit as they are doing their clinical work, and allows them the opportunity to earn while they learn. And that is so important for our kids to see that connection between the coursework that they're taking and the potential that they have in terms of earning power actually in the job field. And if one wasn't enough, we went after 2 in our first year, and we also created a certified apprenticeship program in welding. So that our students who are earning that certificate at Iowa Western can actually get out and do it actually in the field and get credit for it at the same time. So we're very proud that the United States Department of Labor has honored the Council Bluffs Community School District as a school district with 2 active registered apprenticeships right now in CNA and in welding. Paul also wrote and received a $50,000 grant from the Future Iowa Workforce support, and that helped us get some 3-dimensional computers, geriatric simulators that will be used in the labs in our CNA program, and just to make sure that our students get to where they need to go, through a great partnership with McMullen Ford, we were able to purchase a work-based learning van. And this is really a cool opportunity for us. So you're going to see it all over town. But what this does is it provides us the opportunity to make sure that there is never a reason a student can't get to their apprenticeship. or can't get to their work-based learning experience, because instead of having them hop a bus, we can get them in the van, we can get them back and forth between Iowa Western and that work-based learning. It'll also help us when students are doing clinical rotations in our CNA and health science programs, and also make sure that we're able to expand those work-based learning opportunities to students so they can see what it's like, they can test it out, feel it, and understand it before they make the commitment to actually get into those courses. So all of those things together are providing our students with multiple opportunities for on-ramps and off-ramps wherever they're at in their career journey. Because even if a student gets into one of these programs and changes their mind, they can come off and go into a different field, but they never lose that college credit that they earned. That's always something that they have that they can build on, and we're doing it for our kids now, not waiting until they get into post-secondary and change their major 4 times. We're doing it now, and we're doing it at no cost, and that's why we're so proud to offer the +1 pathways for students in Council Bluffs. And with that, I would welcome any questions that the board might have tonight.
I think you might have a few. Any questions from the board?
I want to enroll in the cybersecurity.
I don't have questions, but just want to say congratulations. I mean, that was amazing information, amazing to see the new programs, the on-the-job training. That's awesome. So thank you, Dr. Borkman, for providing that information.
At 694 credits, Iowa Western's $187 a credit hour. That's 129,000 and change.
Yeah.
Dr. Worthman, tell them how many students we have on the campus out there. And then we do have 3 staff members that are housed out there. Will you tell them a little bit about our numbers?
Yeah, we're getting very close to 500 students on the campus, and that would be 500 individual students, not all at the same time, but that would include students who are in the CAP program, culinary arts, health science. That includes early college academy. That includes TRADEWORKS, and then it also includes a great number of students who are taking 1 or 2 classes out there during the day, who may go out there for a class that either we don't offer or it doesn't work in their schedule, and we make sure that they get that class picked up through there. It does not include the number of students who are doing 100% online at Iowa Western, and that's another group. So like Dr. Murillo said, we have our early college academy coordinator on campus to support students. Paul spends almost all of his day at the Iowa Western campus making sure we're working with students in CTE programs. And then we have a counselor that's dedicated to the +1 pathways. Then she serves as kind of that hub and liaison between Iowa Western and our home high schools, and working back and forth to make sure that students don't get lost in the cracks.
Dr. Workman, what, I think, for some reason, I believe in like the PLTW course grant monies, that's kind of gone away now. Are we focusing more on other STEM things or other STEM needs we have or other?
It's a great question. We are in flux with Project Lead the Way, and that's partly because we had an articulation agreement with Iowa Western that allowed us to offer the Project Lead the Way engineering strand simultaneously with college credit.
Okay.
And Iowa Western has informed us that this is the last year of that partnership. So they will no longer be offering college credit for those engineering classes. So we can still offer the Project Lead the Way sequence, but it will not be with college credit. So, excuse me, we'll be investigating other ways for us to be able to continue to offer similar programs to our students.
I've noticed on some of the college applications, that STEM piece, they're now starting to ask for that and weigh heavily on those applicants that have it. So that's for those that are looking.
And that's why in our home high schools, we offer over 70 credits right now for students to take in the STEM areas.
Yep.
Just to follow up on Troy's question about Project Lead the Way, is there another resource that we can partner with, whether it's a community college anywhere in the state that would be able to transfer those credits then to a state-run college as far as their engineering program?
So what we're doing right now is we're trying to figure out an articulation agreement with Iowa Western so that we can offer those classes in our buildings, but we have to have an instructor who's qualified to do so. And part of the issue with Project Lead the Way is that their credentialing standards don't match up with the community college credentialing standards. And so in order for us to continue to offer that advanced level coursework, we have to have an instructor who meets minimum adjunct qualifications. And currently, we do not have that.
Well, I thought for some reason that like University of Iowa accepted PLTW courses, but like Iowa State doesn't accept those.
They all
Or-
accept them. That's
Make
the
you retake
misnomer.
them, maybe
They
it's the-
all accept them because they come from an Iowa community college. But like all colleges and universities, they get to choose how they accept them. And because they're offered for career and technical education, CTE, they sometimes do not transfer into an arts and science degree program, which at Iowa State is an arts and science, engineering is an arts and science degree. So they certainly get credit for them in terms of general education requirements, but like what we're finding across degree areas, colleges and universities want you to take credit hours from them. Because if you don't take credit hours from them, they don't get paid.
And right now, they're hurting.
You mentioned that it was 1 1/4 of the students that initially finish the bachelor's degree, and not sure why. I think some post-secondary institutions, maybe many post-secondary institutions, would say because the students are coming to them unprepared. And while K-12 schools should look at how, we can better prepare students for higher ed, my experience in higher ed is that is just not true. And I think some of the data that you're showing tonight demonstrates that high school students can not only succeed in higher ed, they can outperform their peers. And, I think that some higher ed institutions are starting to take a look at maybe we don't do a good job building relationships with kids like K-12 schools do. Maybe we're a little too rigid. Maybe we need to be a little more flexible. And maybe we need to be more relevant. And I think that these pathways show flexibility, relevance, and are, intimate enough that the students still have all the support that they need while they're at Iowa Western. So I'm just really proud of these programs. And it's impressive the way that you and your team continue to build and grow them. And I think the enrollment numbers are demonstrating that students have been thirsty for something like this. So good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have an idea of what the anticipated enrollment will be in the after-hours program at the TRADEWORKS, and what would be the funding stream to support that after-hours program?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. The first students were supposed to show up tonight, so fingers crossed. I hope some kids showed up. Associated builders and contractors are covering all the costs associated with like tools and that kind of stuff. If a member of the community wants to take part in it, there is a fee that they pay to associated builders and contractors, and that includes the ability for them to test and receive the NCCR certification. But they pay our instructor to do that. Our in-kind contribution is the use of the
Space.
facility, the Dr. Rossick learning facility.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Workman.
Thank you. Near and dear to my heart. Next informational presentation, I'm going to invite Mr. Milbourne to the podium. He's going to provide us an update on the wellness program and how the implementation is going. This was part of Mr. Milbourne's kind of goals that he set for his department. And as you remember, he presented, I believe, 4 goals for your department. And he's going to present an update on how we're doing in the wellness area. So, Mr. Milbourne, the floor is yours.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to provide an overview of the wellness journey our district has been on for about a year and a half now. We'll review some 1920 data, we'll review some data from semester 1, and then do a little sneak peek to 21-22. So as Dr. Murillo mentioned, our HR team has a 3-year action plan with 4 strategies, and strategy number 4 there is centered on culture, safety, and wellness. In the 18-19 school year, we surveyed all employees and asked them what they would like to see from a wellness program. And from that survey, we articulated 4 domains of wellness: physical activity, stress reduction, financial wellness, and weight loss. So taking that information, we began to implement probably a 3 to 7 year plan for wellness and begin to articulate some goals. So goal number 1 is healthy employees, which looks like can look many ways, but it's reducing risk factors, having employees know their personal health, their personal numbers, prevention, early detection, and then being supported on a wellness journey or through their wellness activities. Wellness goal number 2, minimize cost. So maintaining premiums, minimizing catastrophic claims, increasing productivity, and reducing absences. So looking back on 1920, as we look back on the year, no one obviously knew that we were going to have a pandemic and the year was going to be cut short. But we started the year with this wellness calendar, which we had in-house activities. So this is activities our team created or that we partnered with people in the community to implement throughout the year. And so you can see all 4 domains represented there. And then COVID hit and we closed in March and April. So that impacted many of our stress reduction workshops and activities that we had planned in the second part of last school year. However, it was a good initial step into wellness, especially for us creating it in-house. So in our weight loss program, we had 163 people participate. 81 employees lost over 600 pounds. In our physical activity challenges and activities, we had 47 participants. In our stress reduction workshops, 4 participants, but once again, that's the one that they're all scheduled during the closure. And then our financial wellness programs, we had 43 participants. So then moving into the 2021 school year, we purchased the My Health Check 360 wellness program. And so we are going to implement that this year. That consisted of 6 components, so a screening component, an individualized health plan component, motivation components, syncing with your devices, and a reporting and data component so we can track progress and our goals. So our pre-COVID timeline there was last February, March, we were going to do a soft launch with the goal of just getting everybody onto the application and getting initiated with the program and doing what we call these lifestyle rewards activities. Then in March and May, we were going to visit schools and inform all the schools about the program. In June and August, we were going to schedule the biometric screenings and then do a full implementation this year. However, we know that changed, so we've backed that up a little bit. So this year, we really felt uncomfortable scheduling the biometric screenings and the blood draws this summer. So and that's a very key component to this wellness program moving forward. So we started this September implementing the lifestyle rewards activities. This spring we will do virtual visits or virtual videos to get everybody really familiar with the system and logged on to the system if they haven't already through the LSRs. Hopefully we can conduct the biometric screenings this summer and then full implementation next year. So when an employee logs into their health check, my Health Check 360 app, they'll see many of these lifestyle rewards activities where they can gain points. We set a target: if you gain 250 points semester 1, you would receive a $100 incentive payment in December. So there's things from a preventative care visit to getting a flu shot to logging your steps, to logging your sleep, to setting a weight goal, completing a challenge, getting an annual physical, etc. Here's a couple ideas of the numerous combinations that an employee might be able to do to earn 250 points and to earn that $100 incentive. So looking at the end of semester one, we had 330 employees log into the wellness app. We had 306 employees engage in one of those lifestyle rewards activities, and we had 127 employees earn the $100 incentive. So that's about 30% participation, and so I would say that's 30% more than last year. We would say semester two, our goal would be to get to about 45%, and then by the end of next year, get to 70%, which Health Check 360 says is really the tipping point where you're going to see kind of that universal wellness focus in your district, which will really start impacting not only employees' health, but impacting the financial side of the house as well. To dig into that data a little bit deeper, you can see we had almost 8,000 submissions of tracking steps, over 5,000 for tracking your activity, over 5,000 for sleep. So for a total of 22,000, almost 23,000 submissions. So the higher submissions are the ones that sync with your Fitbit, with your phone, with your Apple Watch, etc. And then some of the lower ones are those manual submissions. On top of the lifestyle reward activities, we also had 2 challenges in semester one, a Waterworks challenge and a First Down Fitness, which is an activity challenge, where the top 4 participants earned a $25 gift card as well. And once again, this is the kind of that soft launch, get people excited, get them logged on to the application and get them familiar with it, which will be very important once we get into the biometric screening, because that's where they'll get their individualized health plans and kind of monitor the implementation of their health plan and their compliance. So, talking about screening moving forward, that is a key component. We also did some anecdotal screening this year as well, so we did a health survey where employees asked questions. So a couple key questions I pulled out here which will inform our semester 2 activities and challenges, as well as our 21-22 activities. So how much stress did you experience on an average day? You can see 180 some, 107 a lot, 21 overwhelming, 7 none. I want to do what those 7 people are doing. That's pretty good. And then how well do you manage your stress? 229 very well, pretty well 30, 52, and 4. We also asked, what is your focus? So once again, this is informing our semester 2 action steps as well as next year's action steps. You can see that bottom part of weight and nutrition there. Over 60% to have a focus on weight and nutrition, and then another 20% on fitness. And you see some other key categories there. And then lastly, how would you rate your health? And so we had almost 54% say good, and 17% say great. So action for the remaining part of this year is we have 3 challenges coming up. One actually started today. We're also re-promoting our Real Appeal weight loss program all the way January through May. And then really our goal is to get people to log into that app, which we'll do through those virtual visits and those videos this spring as well. Then looking in August, we hope we can do the biometric screening, which is the key factor in developing those individualized health plans for employees. And it's also key in calibrating how employees view their health. A lot of research shows that people maybe overproject how healthy they are, and when they do a screening, something kind of comes up in the screening that they were unaware of, which is really helpful for prevention and early detection. So once that screening takes place, then the employee receives an assessment, and it'll break down, where they're healthy, glucose, those types of things, heart health, and then it will start providing action steps and a plan for the employee. Then we will push that into next year, and then this time next year we'll look at the data and see what our goals are for semester 2. So with that, I would continually say to our employees now and for the rest of the year, nurturing yourself is not selfish. It's absolutely essential to your survival and well-being, especially in this challenging school year. And I just need to say thank you to Kelly Fisher, who is our Human Resources Benefits Specialist. She has done most of the legwork on our wellness goal, and she is our point of contact for that, and we would not be as far as along without her. So with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions from the board members?
It seems like there's, you know, a good handful of people who are going out to actively participate in those. And I know from a health program we have at my work, very similar, where you can earn points to get money and things of that nature. For those people that hit the $100, is there an incentive or an opportunity maybe for the first year for them to continue to add and maybe hit another 250 and get another 100? I just know from my point of view, right, as soon as people start talking about, oh, I got some free money or I got some extra money, it kind of catches fire and grows the people that are participating, or even
Sure.
log in for the first time, you get 5 points, right? I mean, just simple things like that.
Yep, so we're offering another incentive semester 2, so if you earn another 250. We had originally planned on you had to earn it semester 1 to earn it semester 2, but we came off that and said it's still open to everybody. And then down the line, I think that 30% initially when you implement a program, research would say mostly your healthiest people join and do it right away. And so we'll have to use other tools to try to reach that 70%.
They don't have a primary.
Right.
I think that piece is really important. Establishing that connection. Develop that relationship.
Yeah.
Follow-up is there.
I love that idea and that feedback. We do have the MyUHC platform, which I don't think a lot of our employees log on to, which you can get on there, which connects you with all kinds of healthcare providers.
So then having that resource.
Yeah. Yes, that's great feedback. Thank you. I hadn't thought of that.
Thank you, Mr. Milburn.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that concludes our reports.
Thank you. That brings us to our resolutions. And Dr. Merlo, we don't have too many tonight, so I might just have you give a quick explanation after we've do a motion and a second for each one, just for the people
So-
at home.
Yes, so the first 4, Dr. Borthman oversees those, if you'll come to the podium. And then Tim or Dean, were you going to do the next 4?
So,
I'm sorry, next 1. Sorry.
yeah, I think we'll just do a motion and a second, and then during the discussion, we'll just get a quick explanation, and then if there's questions from board members. So first resolution, we have a second reading of policy 625, high school graduation requirements. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the second reading of policy 625, high school graduation requirements.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And we'll start with the explanation real quick.
This is just the second reading of the policy you approved in November to make some changes to mathematics requirements, more flexibility.
This includes those higher level,
It does.
yeah. Okay. Any questions for Dr. Borthman?
Some of this changes around so we could have, we have credit for.
It also specifically gives students options that are listed in that third year of math. So Algebra 2 is an option, but there are also other options for students like financial literacy, technical math, designed to support some of our programs and our +1 pathways.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Voting. Mr. Aug, Tyler Ogres,
Same difference, yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shuda,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, the motion carries. Next, we have a motion to approve Administrative Regulation 511.2, corporal punishment and physical restraint. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move to approve the revised administrative regulation 511.2, corporal punishment and physical restraint as presented.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is a result of changes to Chapter 103 of Iowa Code that was approved by the State Board of Education. They required that by the end of the month, all local school districts come into compliance with the new changes in the administrative rules. We worked with our in-house attorneys as well as those with the Department of Ed and Ehlers and Cooney to make sure that we had the appropriate language that put us in compliance. The follow-up training that is going on for all staff members is happening right now. And I have Lori Durand and Dr. Wesley Glusha here as well if you have any specific questions about what's entailed.
Thank you. Any questions?
I did have a question on page 3 of the 4. It's talking about the debriefing meetings that would happen, I'm guessing, after an incident where a student was restrained or secluded in some way. And it mentions in there some kind of, not vague language, but basically says a debriefing meeting must be held after any first restraint or exclusion with the student on every 7th incident, or whenever personal injury occurs to the student or staff member, or whenever a reasonable educator would determine a debriefing session is necessary, or whenever assessed by IEP team, and whenever a meeting is agreed by the parents. So is that reasonable educator, teacher says, hey, this seems like we should have a meeting with, when we just say, yep, and we do that, or?
Typically, right now, we already are doing that. We
Right.
just adopted the language from Chapter 103 of the revisions.
Okay.
Typically, debriefing meetings happen at any time there's a seclusion or restraint for the, I would say, majority of the time. That is directed by the team that's involved with that, typically the administrator who is involved with it. Behavior consultants are a part of that, and teachers. So any of those IEP team members or anybody involved in it would be directing that.
Okay, and they're coming together to say, yeah, we agree we should have a meeting,
The debrief.
or what's that look like? Just
Yes, they
curious.
come together and they just say, we'd like to talk about what
What
happened, the
happened.
situation.
Uh-huh.
And then we have a format that we follow where we talk about what happened, what are some patterns we're seeing, what are things that we can do to positively make a change for the next time, so that when we come back, that we're in a different position. In our CPI training that we do, we have a very directive format. It's called the coping strategy. And we use that format to go through those coping debriefing meetings.
Okay,
And those occur for the staff, to make sure the staff are in a good place, but also for the student.
okay. Thank you.
I have a question on page 2 of the 4. It says the staff shall be trained periodically regarding the definition of corporal punishment. Was periodically chosen just because training is only when there's update? I mean, why, that word seems very vague to me.
It's the language that came out of Chapter 103. We're choosing to do it yearly, annually. We already were incorporating into our CPI training for our staff that are CPI trained. From this point forward, we're going to train all of our certified staff, all of our paraeducators, administrators, and SAMs. And that'll be annually, and that'll be part of, starting next year, the Safe School format.
Great,
Platform.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to formulate the question real quick, sir. So anyway, I guess just what is the, like, how frequently do we report this to the state? Is this per incident that we do this? Is it quarterly, semester?
It's reported annually to the state. It's reported, as far as the buildings, they're looking at this information on a regular basis. We meet with, our special ed team meets with building administrators monthly and reviews this information and looks at ways to address concerns. We've seen a significant decrease in the last 2 years.
And then how many of our buildings have the seclusion rooms? I know there's not every building having that same amount, but just in that.
7. $7.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Hudak,
Yes.
Dr. Alders,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. Next, we have an agreement with Associated Builders and Contractors. Is there a motion?
I can move that we approve the agreement with the Associated Builders and Contractors for after-hours sponsorship of the NCCER credentialing.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And Dr. Borthman, I know you talked about this a little bit earlier, but if there's anything about the agreement specifically you'd like to add, that'd be fine. Otherwise, we'll just take questions, if there are any.
I do, so this says we get half the seats at no charge. Are there possibility that we'd have people coming in that we wouldn't know who they are? Should we meet with their students? I mean, is that,
No, we will know who the students are.
okay, perfect.
So I guess Dr. Borthman, just on like some of the ways that we just track students after they graduate, I know we have the just like the post-secondary education, but how we would track, because I know we had said students that dropped out in the past. Where does this kind of fall in that? Does this have any kind of merit towards, like, obviously not like a GRE or anything kind of like that equivalency, but are we going to be able to add that on retroactively just to the number of students that achieved like a diploma or something like that?
No, unfortunately, this is just for career training for students who've already graduated from high school.
Go ahead.
When I was meeting with Dr. Rossick and his wife about this, and I know at one time when I brought Dr. Vorthman with me, this was really the heart of Dr. Rossick's wife, to be able to provide an opportunity for students that may have not finished high school to have a second chance, and also to be able to provide an opportunity for our community to come together around this work and continue to grow in their skills. So I am super excited that we finally got this through. So really hats off to you and Paul for making this happen. And I know she'll be very, very happy to hear that, because we want to continue to support those that have come through.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Wilson, you please call the roll.
Ms. Hudak,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Dr. Alders,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. Next, we have a resolution to approve SBRC spending authority request for the 2021.
Let's see, we have the MOU with,
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped that. Sorry. We have a resolution to approve the 2020-2021 MOU amendment with Iowa Western Community College. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the amended memorandum of understanding with Iowa Western Community College for the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is just an amendment to our current operating agreement with Iowa Western, which specifies how we're going to handle payment for specific CTE programs that are tool or equipment intensive.
Any questions for Dr. Borthman? Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Alders.
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Hudak,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. Now we have an SBRC spending authority request for the 2021-2022 dropout prevention. Is there a motion?
I'll move that the board request from the SBRC $3,152,771 of modified allowable growth for dropout prevention and at-risk services for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. And it looks like Mr. Hamilton is going to explain this to us.
Yeah, this has to be done yearly for the state. It used to be that we had to create a budget and specifically tell the state what we were going to do. Now we just have to request the funds. So in this case, funds are used in a variety of ways, from counselors, grad coaches, all of Canesville staff, a couple behavior consultants, my staff, 21st Century, the director of 21st Century comes out of that. That's our contribution to that. So the majority of it is salaries for people who provide intervention.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Desire,
Yes.
Ms. Hudak,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. And that concludes our business. After this, maybe take a 5-minute break or so, and then we'll move into exempt session in this room. Thank you.